They call me the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I am the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I am the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor. I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
Hello listeners, welcome back and happy Doctor Who Day 2024. And today, to celebrate, I'm joined by two very special and exciting guests. It's Sam and Alasdair from Wholala. Hello.
Hello.
Oh my God.
My
what
God.
a treat.
We're
Happy
here.
Doctor Who Day.
You're finally here.
Finally here. And we thought Journey's End was the crossover for all time.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Who saw this coming? Who saw it coming?
Dalek
Nobody.
can't, probably.
Well, yeah. How are you both?
Very well.
I'm-
I think we're good.
I'm good, yeah. No, I'm glad to be on. It's nice to feature on another Doctor Who pod.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. I was saying before, last time we featured on someone else's pod, we went on Come Along Pond. Sam had these mic issues that just meant you hear like every third word he says. You just hear every so often. I'll say a full sentence.
Have you
Sam will just
seen-
go, yeah.
Have you seen the TikTok of that drag queen on the streets of Soho being like, oh, it's your birthday? Like, that was basically my audio for the episode. So I
Oh.
listened back and I was like, oh my God. So hopefully it doesn't do it this time.
Yeah,
No.
Technology is always tricky, but
Always
Yeah.
tricky.
Never the one.
life goes on.
It does. How are you, Stephen?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to have you both here. Big fan of your podcast, and like I think you started maybe a couple of months before us, so we've sort of been going a similar length of time.
We've been in it
I
together.
remember, I have such a vivid memory of when we got to The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, and we'd like synced up.
Yeah.
Because we would do like topic episodes, do every other week, and you, I think, would just do the episode. And like, so we messaged each other and we were like, I wonder how long we'll stay synced for. And I was like, probably not very long.
Yeah, it was a tiny blip,
Yeah. But a
Oh,
nice
what a
blip.
nice
of that.
blip.
a nice blip. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes,
Exactly. But no, I'm excited for us to be here on your anniversary episode. Thank you for having us.
pleasure. But yeah, we kind of going to talk today about Doctor Who anniversaries. So today's the 61st anniversary. So can't believe that it's been a year since the 60th specials. Where has that time
It's
gone?
mad, isn't it?
It's quite
Genuinely.
bananas.
Yeah, it really, it's mad to think. I think because we put so much hype on the 60th and there was so much build up around it, both in like our podcast worlds and just in like general life, that I can't believe that was a whole year ago. It's mad to think about.
I know. The build-up was monumental, wasn't it? It felt like for months and months and months we were speculating, coming up with plot theories that were completely off. We were clowning about who might be in it, who definitely wasn't in it. But I think it was just quite surreal, wasn't it, on the day when we all came together to actually watch it happen. We were like gripping each other like, oh my God, this is happening. It was like, the RTD2 return, and Catherine Tate's here and David Tennant's here, and oh my God, it's been how many years? 15 years or something since we last saw this happen. And just very surreal moment, really.
I
It
know.
was very surreal,
Where did you
wasn't
watch the episode, Stephen?
I watched it here at home on my own because Ben was not up to date, obviously, with the show. So
Not allowed.
yeah, it wasn't allowed. And yeah, I sort of shut down all the shutters and locked the doors, turned off the phones, and yeah.
Real cinema experience.
I know, yeah. But I was so excited. I don't remember being that excited about Doctor Who for a long time, since I was a teenager. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Fully.
Very much the same here. It was just a bizarre moment. And it was, we had guests, and so I was faffing and stressing about whose pizza was in the oven and whether it would be ready on time. And I was like, oh my God, there's still a pizza in, and it's not going to be done for 5 minutes, but the show's starting. And the credits rolled. I just had to get on with it. And that wasn't even on anniversary day. That was after the anniversary.
Oh, yes.
So on anniversary day, we should be talking about Bargain Hunt, actually. Back to
My
me.
gosh. Yes. Remind any listeners of this who don't know. Tell us what happened.
Well, they were looking for participants on a very special episode of Bargain Hunt, which would be a Doctor Who themed episode. And I think, again, we got a bit carried away with the idea of what that would involve and whether the special expert on that might be Catherine Tate. And of course, no, of course it wasn't. And like,
I don't think Catherine Tate is a special expert on Doctor Who. That's the thing.
No, I just had such an optimistic idea. Like, yeah, they're filming it in Wales, so it's going to be down the road. So they're going to get someone from Doctor Who to be in it. They didn't do that. And anyway, we put forward a very compelling case to both be in it. Sam wasn't free, and then
Yeah.
I substituted in my sister instead, and that's what we did. We filmed for Doctor Who Bargain Hunt.
And it was an experience.
It was an experience. It was oddly nerve-wracking for quite low-stakes daytime TV. And I couldn't even film part 2 because I was so ill with tonsillitis. But it just means that I got to be on BBC One on Doctor Who Day on an official piece of BBC Media, which is about as close as I'll ever get to being a companion. So I have to make my peace with that.
I had such a weird watch experience because I was meeting Alistair that day to watch it, and I was late for some reason. So it started, but I was on the way. So I was like on the bus, like watching it on my phone like this, like screenshotting, like oh my god, and messaging you at the same time, and you were like oh my god. And I think I got there like by the time it was the bit where they were at the auction, so you weren't there. So I just watched your sister, who didn't even sign up to be on the show in the first place, be there like profit. Like it was so funny.
And then we had the Daleks in colour in the evening, which was a nice way to round it off.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
There you go.
Which was fab, actually.
It
that,
was, yeah.
I think, remains a highlight for me. I thought that was done really, really well. I thought that was a very different interpretation of the story, but a great way to bring it to life, I think, for modern audiences with short attention spans. I thought was quite nice.
It's Doctor Who for the TikTok generation.
It is. It is a bit, isn't it? It was like, an easy way to consume classic Who, I think, for a younger audience. And I think still managed to understand the essence of it. But obviously, like the new music, the colour, the edits, all made it very different to the original. But I really enjoyed it.
It's the Susan wink for me. It's the like dun 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 dun. Like that Susan wink just ripped me.
I think there is a ding in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
She winks.
There is a ding.
Yeah.
I love it.
And at time of recording, there's no news about another colorization / edit, but rumours abound. So there might be
What
something.
would you love to see edited, even if it's not colorized? Which one would you love to see like edited in a modern lens?
I think Genesis of the Daleks might benefit from a bit of tightening. It's a
Little bit
really
of
good
new
story,
CGI.
and probably very accessible, but could be maybe slightly more accessible.
Yeah.
I'd be so curious to see them do something like the dinosaurs and see whether they just keep it really true to the original animation and just like edit it, or whether they'd be like, nah, we're CGI in this baby, and we'll have like Pertwee in front of this like sort of deep breath era T-Rex flying around. I think that'd be so fun to see.
Yeah.
That'd be
I'd
fantastic.
love that. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, it's coming through immediately that I'm not very familiar with classical. I'm like, which one would I redo? I think they do a really good job though with everything I've seen of the collection. When they do like a gentle kind of enhancing of the effects, but keep them looking kind of retro still, so it doesn't stick out too much. I like that a lot.
I'm not a big fan of when they like update like the Dalek voices and things, and like have Nick Briggs dubbed over classic episodes, because it's like if I'm watching the classic show, I want to see what it was at the time, not
Yeah.
But yeah,
not the bastardization of the Daleks.
Anywho,
No, but I get you though. I get you. Yeah,
that was going to be an alternate title for our podcast. Anywho, because we say it so much.
that's a good one.
I think I'm going to say the bastardization of the Daleks. Alternative title.
That's got to be the episode
it's
title for
bold.
this. Yeah,
It sticks out. Like
They'll
it's
never work with
different.
the BBC, but it's bold.
yeah.
But it's bold.
So, thinking about big anniversary celebrations that Doctor Who's done in the past, we've had the 3 Doctors for the 10th anniversary, the 5 Doctors. I can see a theme developing here.
Yeah.
Was the 2 Doctors an anniversary thing? You know, where they had Colin Baker and Patrick Troughton. Was that for an anniversary, or was that just for shits and giggles?
I think it was just shits and giggles. Yeah.
Dimensions in Time is the next one that jumps to me.
That's definitely shits and giggles.
That was also shits and giggles. Yeah, exactly.
Did they do anything in 2003?
Oh, they did. Isn't it Schalke?
Was it
Sorry,
Schalke, Scream of the
Doctor.
Schalke, yeah. I've not
Scream
seen
of the
that.
Schalke. I think that was 2003, and I think that was their way of marking it.
I seem to think they did a Doctor Who night on BBC as well, like, and there were some comedy sketches with Mark Gatiss and David Williams. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
Oh,
Yes, I've seen those. Yeah.
Actually, they are very funny. Like, there's one where it's supposedly the guy who came up with Doctor Who going into the meeting at the BBC and sort of saying, yeah, I think after 3 years we should completely change the main actor and then do it again after 3 years, and all this stuff that obviously he wouldn't have known at the time, but Yeah, it's funny that I just made it sound, but
they're like, no, it is. There was one sketch. I don't know if it was for that anniversary because I'm not sure where. Because I think John Pertwee passed away from that point, but there's definitely out there somewhere a John Pertwee and David Walliams sketch about
Really?
Doctor Who. I swear that's true. Maybe I'm bundling my doctors. It might be another Doctor Who. I'm pretty confident that it's Pertwee because I remember seeing it and just being like, "This is such a mix of worlds I never thought would touch." It's
That's
so weird.
I know there's a Peter Davison one where they kidnap Peter Davison and they like he's like got gaffer tape on his mouth. Oh, you need to find them on YouTube, or whatever.
You'd find it.
I want to see all of the alternative versions of the 50th anniversary because you know that it went through all those versions where it was like, what if we have no doctors? What if we have 3 doctors? What if we have only Clara? And I'd love to know like how the story works in like the Clara only version of the 50th or like the David only version of the 50th with no Matt or whatever combination
that would have been wild. David and Clara with no Matt. Imagine it would be along with my idea of the John Pertwee sketch that definitely doesn't exist. I've given it a Google and it must have come to me in a fever dream.
I mean, I'd love to see it, but
no, I have this image in my head that it happened, but it's a fever dream. What can you say?
Wild.
I can't imagine how stressed Stephen Moffat must have been for those months when he was trying to get any doctors on board for the 50th.
I'd cry.
The pressure of that, all the weight of that on your shoulders. And it's not his fault if no one's wanted to sign up, but yeah.
You know that feeling when you realise you're really late to organise something and you've kind of missed the window and you panic and it's almost like, whether it's like you were meant to book that dinner a long time ago and now there's no spots, or it's like, I really should have got that train ticket before it became like 5 times more. But like that on a monumental scale of like, we are so late. I really should have signed on Matt for a special when we last did the contract. And like, I really should have. I'd crumble, I think, in the first week of showrunner. I'd just start crying.
It's easy to be like, oh, I would do this and I would do that. And it's so easy. I have so many ideas if I was the showrunner. But like, when you actually think about the logistics of what it would take to be a showrunner, I'm like, maybe this is more difficult than I anticipated.
Yeah. And then if anyone criticized my stories, I think I'd be devastated.
I
know, like I tried really hard. Like I know you all hated it, and I know it's got the worst ever IMDb score, but you're being mean.
Yeah.
You've got to have a really thick skin.
You do. Mm-hmm.
But speaking of that, then I did ask you before we recorded to have a little think, and I'm sure you're brimming with ideas about if in the fantasy world you were the showrunner of Doctor Who, and there was a big anniversary coming up. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that next year was the 60th or the 70th or something. What would you do?
Well,
I want Alice to go first because we've spoken about this and he has fun.
Mine that I am quite proud of and actually think of quite often is the missing Doctor story, which is a multi-companion story, because you don't have to bother with all the difficulty of like, why does the Doctor look older? Because companions can look older, and you can displace them from time and bring them into your story from wherever they were living, or you can bring Jenna Coleman back because she probably hasn't aged, and you can say like, oh, this is the week before the Raven, and you can bring people back at any given point. So I've always liked this idea of a story which is a bit probably a bit Spider-Verse-y and probably wouldn't feel very original when you actually watched it. You'd be like, this is a rip-off of 10 other things. But I like the idea of there being like, the Doctor is missing, the companions have to find him, and for whatever reason we keep changing the lineup of companions through the story. So like whether they're being like glitched in and out of the situation, or they're being kind of taken out of time and brought into the story at different points, but that we could have kind of like different combinations of maybe 3 at a time at any given point. So you get like a Clara, River, and Bill are all together at some point, and then at some point it's Rose, Ruby, and I'm just throwing out random companions at this point, but and not
Dan.
Why not? Dan, why not? It's Clara and Dan for part of the story. Like, I just think you could have so much fun with silly combinations as well of quite iconic characters, where you could have kind of like Donna and Brian Sinclair for 10 minutes. Why not? And you'd have, I think, different companions use different skills and different experiences to advance through different parts of the story. So at a certain point, you need companions who can fly a TARDIS. At another point, you need companions who fought a particular monster. At a different point, you need companions who I don't know, have some other particular skill set or have a different way of seeing a situation.
Got a
But
bit
I
of a
like-
gob on them.
Got a bit of a I just think there'd be a good way of writing a complex story that crosses different times, planets, but is led entirely by the companions and a TARDIS, be that a memory TARDIS, be that an abandoned TARDIS, a future TARDIS we haven't seen before. That was another idea I thought we should build into this. With this lineup, bring in a future companion we haven't met yet. This is a great way of introducing them, I think, like an unannounced casting. And then they're looking for a TARDIS and be like, you can use ours. And then you meet the 16th Doctor's TARDIS before you meet the 16th Doctor. I don't know. I think there's so many ways you could play with that format, but essentially a multi-companion story is where I'd go with it.
I love this idea. It's so basically it's like a Doctor Light anniversary special.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're so right. There's so much you can do with this wonderful cast of companions that we've got. Yeah.
Because I think the Doctor has been, for a long time, on much more of an even footing with the companion, especially in the new era. So in a way, it would kind of honour that, I think, because yes, Doctor Who is, the Doctor is the central character, but the companion has become as important as the Doctor throughout most of the show. So it's another way of kind of, I guess, taking a different angle on it, that the companion is as central. And what is the companion's role in the story? But anyway, I haven't thought of an actual plot to accompany that.
But that would have been a really good one to do if they hadn't been able to secure Matt's contract for the 50th, because you could have had Clara maybe be with every trio of companions or whatever the group is. So you're following Clara and this memory TARDIS, whatever, and then all the companions. I think that could have been a really good way to get around a Doctor anniversary special.
There'd probably be outrage about an anniversary without the Doctor or with minimal Doctor.
They pop up at the end.
They come back at the end, obviously. Or they find the wrong one first. And they're like,
Probably not the one
that's
you're
not the one we
expecting.
thoued it was going to be.
Or they find the Master.
Dun,
Or they
dun,
find the
dun,
Master,
dun.
who is also Jenna Coleman. Brilliant. No one follows my story. It is extremely for a very core group of fans only. The rest of the UK tuning in hates it. 3
It's
out of
not
10
a jumping
IMDb.
on point.
It's not a jumping on point. It's a jumping off point
Yeah.
for everyone.
But I mean, on that note, do we think an anniversary special should be about being accessible to new viewers, or is it okay if it's a little bit more niche for the fans?
I think it's okay for it to be a bit of fan service, because I have conversations about that like this with people a lot, not necessarily just about Doctor Who, where fan service against story. And I think as much as it's good for any story of Doctor Who to be able to be viewed by anyone, and I agree that I think you could watch The Day of the Doctor and have anyone enjoy it. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, okay, we're celebrating 50 years or 60 years, whatever, of this show. This episode is for the fan. This is for you. And if you don't get it, that's fine. The girls that don't get it don't have to get it. But this is for the people who have been following along. And that might not do well on numbers. That might not do well outside of our Doctor Who bubble. But I think there's something nice about being almost rewarded for staying along,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I agree, because the 50th was actually quite a complex story. And you actually need a bit of context to actually sort of grapple with the Time War and the stuff that's going on there. I mean, if you've watched at any point since 2005, then you know about the Time War, I guess. But it's actually quite a complex story. It's almost unfortunate that RTD's return point coincided with the 60th, because I don't think an anniversary lends itself to being a jumping on point naturally. And it was also a callback, I guess, in the 60th to this is a plot thread that happened 15 years ago. So anyone who also jumped on, because we forget now that we grew up with it when we were 9 or 10 in 2005, and it's oh, okay, we know the story because we grew up with it. But some people have grown up with Matt Smith's era now and grown up with Peter Capaldi's era, who for them our first era of Doctor Who with RTD1 is actually quite retro. So they're probably oh yeah, I kind of remember what happened with this. So
I didn't really watch
difficult.
that one.
Yeah, I didn't really watch the Donna ones. So I don't know them very well, which is a
Yeah.
insane thought to me.
Yeah.
But yes, I think it probably should be quite. I think it's meant to be fan service, really, isn't it? Because there's only once every 10 years that you really get a celebration.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I have for my idea about what I would do if I was doing an anniversary special, I have a practical sense of what I would do, as in behind the scenes, than what I would do on screen. So I think behind the scenes, if I was the showrunner, the first thing I would do is write a multi-Doctor story that I'm not planning on releasing for like at least 10 years. And I would get all of my incumbent doctors and companions and stuff to film scenes for that. So I'd write these like scenes not knowing who the doctor or companion will be, and I'll be able to like adjust it as the eras go on. But I'm just thinking, okay, so New Who's been on for 20 years. Can you imagine if back in 2005 on whatever camera they could have gone that was like thinking it will last for 20 years, kind of Boyhood style, filmed Nine and Rose at the time and the age that they were filming Nine and Rose, and same with like 10 and Martha and 11 and Amy and all that. And if you could write a story that you know you can adjust as the years go on, depending on who the doctor and companion are and plot threads you can weave in, you could then in 20 years or so have a story with all of these doctors, but like at the time they were at their peak. Like you could have 10 and 14 at the ages they are interacting. And I think like logistically, that's such a cool concept to be able to like put them on screen together. But on screen, and this is not by any means an original idea, this has been everywhere. But the way that I would sell it is I would advertise this as a multi-doctor story and maybe have, say, I don't know, 15 and 11 and what, you don't have to have every doctor, but like a few doctors, and it's only advertised as a multi-doctor anniversary story, a bit like the 50th. And then it's maybe 2 parts. And then at the cliffhanger, you realize either like one of the doctors, one of the companions is someone like the Master or the Rani, or like you're not who you're expecting to be, and they didn't tease it at all. So they really like subvert expectations there. I just want to fuck around with everyone. Sorry, can you swear on this one?
Oh,
sorry,
yeah, that's fine.
That's totally okay, good. Sorry. And you fuck around with them. And I'd love to subvert expectations with people like that, where you kind of pull the rug from under them, you know?
Yeah. I've thought about that before with like filming doctors at different points, which I think for the BBC is probably so hard to justify because there's probably always a need to almost say we're asking for this budget for this year to release this piece of content for this year for da-da-da-da-da. And I think that's probably how it all works with the commissioning. I think you'd have a really hard time saying like, right, we may be filming 480p right now in 2005, but trust me when I say we need to borrow some cinema cameras to record on film, because 20 years from now we will be back here and we will be regretting that we didn't film this other script I secretly have in my pocket, so that we can have Chris Eccleston interact with 6 other doctors. But I love the idea that there would be some secret project in a vault somewhere that Chibnall and Moffat and RTD had all secretly been working on, and every doctor had secretly worked on. The issue would be if the script from like 20 years ago is actually quite bad. That everyone's been working on this.
We've been waiting all this time and it's crap, yeah.
But you look at like series 1, Chris Eccleston, and it's like hit. Like, can you imagine like an RTD series 1 script that never got released? Like, juicy.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see
that.
Mm-hmm.
I do love that idea. The thing as well, they're like, back in 2005, like they genuinely didn't know. Like they thought they could just be doing that one series and that was it, and it would fall into obscurity. Whereas I feel like now there's less of a risk of that. Even if the show were to be rested again, I feel like there's
come back.
A good chance that it will be back at some point.
Yeah.
So
I just wish maybe like circa series 6, you know, when it was getting real like New Who at least, because Doctor Who's always been global, but New Who specifically getting incredibly global or like being pushed to an American audience. That's the time where I wish they had been like, ooh, maybe if we just had a little had a little peruse, you know, like, oh, it'd be so good.
Yeah, that would be so cool. Also, I think part of the fun of doing multi-doctors is actually having them come back and revisit the role, rather than. Then this would be a different angle on it, and like you say, you get actually possibly a more authentic slots into their era. So it would be super interesting to see.
It would be a completely different take than anything we'd like seen before logistically, because the only thing I can really think of in that line is like in the 50th when they were like, no, all 13, and you get that little like eye shot of Capaldi who hadn't done his era yet but came in to do something there. Like that's the only time I can think of like someone coming back in that circumstance that we got.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Definitely.
It was really good. Go on, Stephen. If you had the keys to the kingdom, if you could do anything, what would you do?
Well, my idea is a bit strange probably, but it's an idea I've had for a while. I think I talked about it on the podcast during when season 1 was going out, because at one point I thought this might be where they were heading.
Right.
But I don't think they would actually do it because it is so out there. But basically the idea is that the Doctor and companion somehow fall through into a parallel universe, which is our universe, where Doctor Who is a TV show and they are characters played by actors. And and so literally you could have Russell T Davies playing himself, and you could have the characters meet the actual actors who are playing them, or like, you know, there could be some story where someone's trying to sort of destroy Doctor Who, and then, you know what I mean? Like, I think maybe at the end there could be some sort of memory wipe or something so that he doesn't go on thinking he's in a TV show. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think it could be really cool and really fun. So recently for the first time, I watched The League of Gentlemen. And then after that, a film that they made, which basically does a similar sort of thing, where the characters from their sketch show come out into the real world and they meet like Mark Gatiss and Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton. And it's so bizarre, but it's I was like, oh, that's the kind of thing I wanted to do with Doctor Who. Like, I just think that would be so cool. And then you could have them meet like previous actors who played the Doctor, but they've aged because it's been decades since they played the part.
I think, you know, that one clip of Christopher Eccleston going through that local park. Which park is it? He's furious and he's like talking about all the litter and he's like, you lot and all your shit stinking up this park. And having to explain to like the Ninth Doctor, like, this is really weird, but there's this guy, you look just like him. And he is pretty angry a lot of the time, actually.
Can you imagine like
Ncuti
Gatwa walking into a comic con, you know, like kind of Vincent van Gogh, like walking in his work. It's the 15th Doctor walking into a comic con, but it's just Chris Eccleston going, sack Russell T Davies, sack Julie Chanter, sack Julie Garner, and Billy there like, ooh, and like Ruby and the Doctor are there like, oh.
Yeah.
I think the Ninth Doctor would be quite sympathetic to his plight. I think he would.
He'd get it.
Chris, yeah.
I think so too. But I love that idea. I think there's something so fun. I do wonder if it's something that they'll play with in future Who about like crossing over between, I don't know, if they'd ever be like, Doctor Who's a TV show, make the characters aware. It feels like so zany an idea, but like the show is zany. The show is silly, goofy fun. Yeah. And I feel like Ncuti could play that quite well as well, specifically like his Doctor would be able to like play the line. It'd be interesting if they ever had them like, you know how you were saying about talking to like previous actors and stuff, if they ever had them talking to like Doctor Who fans, you know, coming and sitting in their living room, talking over a cup of tea about Doctor Who. I just think that'd be so interesting to watch.
I'm never that keen on the fourth wall breaks. And I think like, I know Doctor Who's being super experimental, but, and I don't want to just sort of like nag on this point and be like, I didn't like R2D2. That's not what I want to do. But I don't know. There's something about, for me, the suspension of disbelief always like a teeny weeny bit, like slightly dampens the magic for me. I knew someone in school, this was so funny to me. She insisted on never watching Doctor Who Confidential because she was like, it kills the magic for me. I don't want to see how they do it. I need to like,
that's quite sweet though, to doing that.
It's quite sweet, but also I'm like, that is slightly ridiculous. That might be a step too far. Like, I don't want to believe they directed this. I want to believe it just happened.
There's something wrong with you, honey.
So but I think I think generally in universe I want them to never know it's a show. I don't know. I don't know why I feel that way, but I mean it's cool that they keep experimenting with it.
But the point would be, I think, that not necessarily that it's not like a big reveal to them like this whole time we've been in a show, but that actually they've stumbled into a parallel universe where that is the case, that it is a TV show.
No, I like that.
Like I could stumble into a parallel universe where my life is a TV show. It'd be a very boring TV show. But
that makes sense.
You know.
Yeah. It'd be funny if it was like they stumble into a world where there's a show called Doctor Who, but the show is slightly different to the Doctor Who that we watch. So it's still a parallel version. This is getting levels deep. Yeah. But the show is a bit different. Like, as in, like, it looks a bit wrong. The theme tune's different. The titles are a bit different. And there's also, like, different actors.
It's like a Portaloo. They go into a Portaloo.
Yeah, there's still bits that are, like, a bit wrong. Like, the Ninth Doctor is played by... You know the one who's in Vincent and the Doctor?
Bill Nye.
Bill Nye, you know, he was, like, supposedly auditioned at some point to maybe be the 12th or 11th. I think it was 11th he auditioned for and didn't get it. And maybe they then instead were like, there is a character we'd like you to be. I think
that's fun. I didn't know that.
I might be making that up.
Anywho.
I have a question for the room. Okay. I was going to ask for the 50th anniversary. Does anyone have any fond memories of how they celebrated that one? Because I always refer back to the big 3-day anniversary weekend that they did at the XL, and I just remember it was such a big event. It was massive, and the rooms, the halls where they do talks in the Excel are massive. They feel like Comic-Con halls. And they had panels with Stephen Moffat, Jenna Coleman, Matt Smith, maybe John Hurt. And there was some really great exhibition stuff as well. They had this whole like hall where you could just do like your shopping for your fan bits. And they had like the comics and pin badges and all the normal stuff that's at a Comic-Con. And then they had in the corner as well a massive setup of Matt Smith's first TARDIS from Series 5. And you could go in and get a picture taken in there, but it was like silly expensive to go and do it. And they had a big layout of Totter's Lane of the junkyard. You could go in and you could see the TARDIS in there and all these other junkyard props, and you could go through the doors into the junkyard, and it was very immersive from memory. But did anyone else do any of this?
I wish I did know.
No, I didn't even know it happened.
No, well, I wish I had. I felt very like, when I was in school, like when Doctor Who first came back, I always feel like, and I think this is a lot of shared experience with people who are our age now, like you have like the Doctor Who kid when you're in school, you know? So I always felt like the Doctor Who kid. So I never really had a circle of people when the anniversary was happening that I could like go to and talk about it. And so I never heard this stuff was happening. So my vivid memory is I watched it with my grandparents. And for me, it was more so than watching the actual episode. And Alistair and I have spoken about this on Wholala before, but the build up, and especially like the fan build up as well, like John Smith on YouTube making all the fake trailers and set photos, and when they heard about the cast, like theorizing, well, what's Rose going to be because Billy Piper's coming back and the Zygons maybe going to be da-da-da. But I was really big in like trying to guess what was going to happen. And I remember so vividly having a dream one day that I went to the cinema, sat down on my seat, and just within my dream watched an entire 50th anniversary special. And let me tell you this, it was not what actually happened. But like I had such a vivid memory. It wasn't even that like, this is such a boring dream. I wasn't the Doctor. I wasn't in the adventure. I was sat in the cinema in my dream watching it on the big screen. Like, wow, we're finally here. Like, but yeah. No, I wish I had been to that exhibition though. That sounds so cool when you talk about it. It's fun to look back on anniversaries that have happened and also think about what they do like coming up, because like obviously we're right around the corner next year from 20 years of New Who, and Russell's obviously said before that he's not doing an anniversary special, and I do respect, like, get why he's saying obviously that it's confusing for wider audiences, especially if we've just had the 60th anniversary and now we're going to suddenly have a 20th anniversary, and they never celebrated anything to the 10th anniversary. But I would love, I'd be interested to know if you two would like anything like this, but I would love them to like commemorate it. We don't need like a special episode, but I'm thinking maybe like a Tales of the TARDIS, but with New Who characters. Like I'm thinking maybe like a Rose and a Jackie.
Oh, that would be amazing.
And you get, get them and they just look back and think of like Aliens of London or something like that.
Yes.
I don't know. Like it would just be so fun to think of pairings in the same way they did where they like nurtured classic Who so much when they did the first series of it, to have New Who you could have like Donna and Martha, Catherine Freema being one, or Amy and Rory coming back to do it. You know what I mean? Like having them to look back on one of their episodes. I just think that would be such a lovely way of not having to like blast about that it's the 20th, but just commemorate it in a little way.
Yeah. I do think that would be fantastic.
And I wonder if that would be one that you could persuade Christopher Eccleston to get involved in, because
Russell has to not be involved.
Russell has to be not involved. I mean, I guess because he's showrunner and, I doubt he'd want to touch it. But because he's been quite willing to do like Big Finish, and I think even for the 50th anniversary, I think he considered it, but on the basis he could request a specific director, which he couldn't. And so I wonder if kind of given the right conditions, we could ever get a 20th anniversary. Do I mean 20th? 20th anniversary? God, that's so long, isn't it? 20th anniversary of New Who. Billy and Chris Eccleston sit around.
Do you know what? I think there's a world in which it could happen, but they would just have to have a lot of money, because I'm thinking of Kim Cattrall, like how she said, she was like, I will never come back to Sex and the City. I will never do anything to do with it. I hate this, all blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, we'll pay you $1 million. And it's 3 hours of filming. And we'll drive you there and back. We'll give you lunch. And then you can be on your way and you're done by 4. And I'm thinking that for a Tales of the TARDIS, realistically, if you really had to crunch it, an hour in hair, makeup, 2 hours on set, de-rig for 20 minutes and you're gone. Be like, you'll be in for 4 minutes, 4 hours. We'll give
4
you...
minutes.
Yeah. Do you know what? You probably could film it for 4 minutes.
Ambitious.
You'll be in for 4 hours. We'll give you 20 grand. Please. Like, I mean, they never would, obviously, but like, if we got a 9 and Rose Tales of the TARDIS, dreamy. And they look back on maybe like the parting of the ways or something, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
I'd love that. I'd
Yeah,
really like
same.
to see. I want to see Chris Roxon recognized in some way, I think, just because as well, like, you know, Billy Piper got more time as well to stay on to the show. And obviously, I think I really do honestly think Billy and Chris Roxon and Russell T Davies all have like a shared stake in the success of the show when it came back. Like, I think all of them played as much of a part as each other. Like, for me, Billy, I think, was the thing that brought me in more than anything else, even though it was like, it was Russell's stories for a lot of it and Russell's vision for it. But so I don't know. I think, you know, a lot of people talk about wanting Chris Foxton back in some way. I don't think he'll ever come back to the show, but I think some kind of something especially for that Doctor would be nice.
Fun to think about anyway. Lots of fun theories about what they could do with anniversary specials. Yeah, I do wonder, I mean, obviously we've got 10 years of Doctors and Companions that we don't know about yet. I do wonder what the 70th is going to look like, you know, like whether they'll do something like the 75th, you know, 3/4 of a century.
Yeah.
That's mad. What's Doctor Who going to look like at 100?
Oh, God.
We've said this, like, we probably will live to see the 100th. And there will be a 100th, whether or not it's on TV. Like, there will be a committed fan base for sure in 39 years. Like, I'm absolutely certain
It's
it will be.
39 years.
It's not like in a lifespan. Like, it's not that far. Like, it's like we will possibly be there for it.
I mean,
and we will
like
potentially come back if, you know, Spotify still exists and download this clip and be like, listen, like, there's our
real loyal.
How old are you there, Sam?
Here in 39 years.
I know. Can you imagine? We'll just be like, yeah, I'm 28 back there. I'm so young, and I'll be in my 60s still recording Wholala.
Yeah, you won't look a day over 2000.
Thank you.
Thank you, darling. I'm moisturised. Have you seen that clip of Zoe Wanamaker where she's on, is it My Family?
My Family,
they
yeah.
do an episode. Yeah, they do an episode where they go to the future and everyone's been aged up, but she looks the same. And I'm just like, Mum, you look amazing. And she goes, thank you, I'm moisturised. Turns to the camera. Wink to the camera. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I love her.
Oh, I love it.
She does Bisto ads now. Have you noticed?
I have not noticed Zoe Wanamaker doing Bisto.
Whenever you hear, like, there's like the Bisto, it's always only one of them. I'm like, Cassandra! Like, every time.
You know, it's like Billy Piper does the Boots adverts. Have you noticed that?
No.
Billy Piper's the voice of Boots. She's like, summer fun is just around the corner at Boots. Like, that's Billy Piper.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, look
No,
at that.
Like, that can't be right.
No, I know this for a fact. This isn't my...
When I'm in store, and if you know anything about me,
This is from like 2020, I'm thinking. I don't know.
Oh, well, no. Well, then let me tell you then. I recently tell you who the voice is now, and I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Free
Right.
management.
Oh,
No.
stop. Do you know who
If
does
you
the voice
listen
of
now-
Alasdair?
Who?
Jodie Whittaker.
Is he?
Right
Oh,
now.
yes.
Yeah.
What are you doing? This is so funny. Okay, Stephen, I task you this week. Please find a supercut of Jodie doing Alasdair, Freema doing Boots, and Billy doing Boots.
Yeah.
I
That
need
is-
to hear it. And
That can be our 61st anniversary special. It's just
Period.
piece that together.
please,
Yeah.
Here.
please.
Just to prove
Where's-
that I'm not making this up, here we go. It's June 2021. Boots unveils ads to make Brits, quote, feel good as new, voiced by BAFTA-nominated Billy Piper. There you go.
Wow, that
Oh,
is
there we go.
wonderful. I feel like
Mad.
I mean, I haven't seen it written that it's Freema now. I've heard it.
No,
and
but
thought
I
that's
feel
Freema.
like I believe that. David
Yeah.
does loads. I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
he does like gas and electric or something. Like he does
Yeah.
loads.
he did British Gas, didn't he? At some point, yeah.
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 Funny world.
He's got such a lovely voice that people are going to get sucked in by. And
Yeah,
So it's good
I'd
for
buy whatever he
advertising.
was selling.
yeah.
Do you know what? I can't. There's certain Doctor Who people I can just imagine saying no to doing ads, and I don't know why, but I feel like Matt Smith would never do an ad like that, like never do voiceover work.
I
Just
think-
get Jacob Tubman to do it.
And he would.
Wow.
Do you know what? It's so funny. I did a short film with Jacob earlier in the year, and he was showing me there was this ad he did where they filmed. It was a KFC ad. I don't think it's about telling the story. It's a funny story, and it was just someone going into KFC and buying whatever the chicken was, and whoever did it on the day, they didn't like the way they said it. So instead of getting that guy back, they hired Jacob to come in and like read that one line over and over and over again. So it's just mad, the like voiceover work that people get that you'd never
Yeah.
think of. It's so funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I did put out on social media this week to ask listeners if they had any cool ideas for Doctor Who anniversary episodes.
Ooh,
Spill the Soup says an alternate universe style companion swap. So like 10 with Amy, Rose with 11, that kind of thing.
Nice.
Ooh,
It could be something.
I like that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see their chemistry.
I feel like they could do like a what if style like animated show where they get them back to do the voices like and they do like a little like 10-minute episode of it. That would be fun. I like that.
Analyzing DW says an episode set during the Doctor's birthday, which sounds on the one hand really cheesy, but also like actually that's the perfect thing to do in a way, isn't it? Yeah.
That's a really nice
that.
concept. I don't think we've ever done that before, have we?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's very rare for a show this old to have something that they've never done, especially when it's that simple, but I'd love to see that.
You know what that makes me think of right away? It feels like it would be a really Amy 11 episode, like a mini-sode of her being like, oh, come on, you have a birthday. Everyone has a birthday. How can you not have a birthday? That's ridiculous. But like, I didn't
And then
stop
it turns
to
out
count.
it's
Being too busy
today.
running around. And it's like, and then he does the maths and he's like, oh, it's today. And then they have a birthday adventure. I like that idea.
Yes. Afronaut said the return of Christopher Eccleston, which we've talked about, which we would love.
We all want it.
We all want it. But
You know that clip, it's like, is that something you want? Well, let me tell you something, you're never going to get it. Like, that's everyone dangling the carrot of a Chris Eccleston return.
well, the Doctor Who version is we'd all like a lot of things that aren't going to
Aren't
happen.
going to happen. Exactly.
Also, from TikTok, somebody has said that they would have 5 Doctors from the future join one of our already known Doctors, and they would all be new talents.
That's so fun,
because they could be from any point in the future.
They don't ever have to have their own series. They could be from a million years in the future, you know? I love that. I think that's so fun. I think I'd get a bit overwhelmed with 5 new Doctors, if I'm honest. They're like one, a bit like a few. I mean, I guess they did it sort of with the Fugitive Doctor, but like Fugitive Doctor style-esque, but they have all their memories, so they know who the incumbent Doctor is. That's so fun. I love that.
Yeah.
It allows you as well to get in some really prestige talent who you couldn't otherwise normally have.
Yes.
So like when we had
Very
John
John
Hurt as
Hurt.
a one-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be quite fun, wouldn't it? And then just like a couple of real like unknown wild cards in there too. I'd love that.
I liked how actually with the 60th, like in a way we did get a multi-Doctor episode with the Giggle, but it was in a way that we haven't done it before with technically a future Doctor, the next Doctor, meeting the previous one.
I know that the Giggle has a lot of contention with some people. Some people love it, some people hate it. But that line when the Toymaker is shooting the 14th Doctor and he's kind of like, "Wah!" and he says, I lost the first game to the first Doctor. I was beaten by this Doctor. That means by your rules I should play the next game with the next Doctor. That line genuinely like gives me chills when I think about it. And I remember watching that live and being like, oh my God. Like it was it's such a good line.
It was the shock as well of like, he's going to die again in front of us in the next 5 minutes. Oh, again. And then he didn't. But, and also just like, he's here. It's Christmas. Like, shoot, he's coming. Crazy.
Pearl Goblin said that she always thought the meddling monk should be brought back and updated. I think I have watched, because he's only in one story, isn't he? And I have watched it once.
Yeah, it's a second Doctor story, I want to say.
Am
I making that up?
First Doctor, I think.
Maybe it's first. I knew it was
so.
black and white. I just couldn't remember if it was second or
yeah.
but yeah, I knew it was pre-Pertwee. But no, I'd love to see that. I also think the same about the Watcher. I'd love them to bring the Watcher in at some point.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Or the Valiard.
Oh yeah.
Valiard is overdue.
I thought you were just going to say the Valiard's overrated. Because okay,
No.
got
Just
a real
random
pile of Time
hater
Lord
comment.
hater here.
No, I think it'd be great fun. I endorse it.
Yeah, no, it would be good, especially we've had so much more Doctor since then, that there's so much more darkness within the character that can be explored.
No, that's true. That's true. Kind of like felt that tease with the Dream Lord, but yeah, I think there's more to be explored.
What you need to understand with the Valiard character is if they know as much as the Doctor knows, but they've kind of gone rogue, the Doctor is like a pretty unstoppable character. So the threat is pretty wild if you have a Doctor go rogue.
Definitely.
Could be fun. Could be very fun.
So thank you again, guys, for joining. It's been a huge pleasure.
Oh,
thank you for
fun.
having
It's been
us.
nice to
I've had
be
so much
here.
fun.
Thank you. Such a nice little chat.
Yeah, I am certain that anybody listening is fully aware of who you guys are and where you can find Wholala. But just on the very small chance that they're not, tell us about Wholala.
Oh, well, Wholala, we are a fun, fruity Docu Who podcast where we go through previous episodes and touch on fun topics. We'll look at it through a queer lens. You can find us pretty much anywhere you listen to your podcast. It's at Wholala Pod on all social media. And we're Wholala, a Docu Who podcast with Alasdair Gibbs and Sam Player.
That's exactly right. I've got nothing to add to that other than we're still going. We're doing exactly what we're doing here. We're just kind of churning along, finding new things to discuss, and always open to random topics that people want to hear us chat about, really.
Yeah.
And talking of big milestones like anniversaries, you've just had your 100th episode, haven't you? Which is a huge milestone.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
2
very
years of
much.
Wholala. Can't believe anyone's still kicking around.
I can't believe they're not all giving up already. But we did it. I think it's there's a certain point, I think, with the podcast where it just becomes part of your daily life and your routine, and you just don't really question. I think somewhere beyond episode 50, you stop even questioning the option to ever stop.
Yeah.
it's just,
I feel like,
but that's what I do.
At the beginning, it was really trying to like fit it in and whether we could or whatever. And you just kind of like, right, okay, Wholala, recording some Mondays, let's go.
Here we go. Okay.
Whereas with this podcast, it's a bit more, I constantly feel it's a little bit touch and go with whether Ben is just going to say, no, I've had enough now, I'm not doing any more.
Oh really?
Every episode could be our last.
He's enjoying it. No, but when I listen to your podcast, I know what it's like to have a partner that you feel like you're dragging through. You're like, no, listen.
Oh, that's me.
You'll love it. Listen, you'll love this show. I promise. I know what that feeling is.
Doctor Who got us all here.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it is lovely. I think it's nice that we're all bananas enough about this ridiculous show, which is the best and worst show in the world. And that the fan community is just so strong that here we all are, and that there's space enough, I think, for all of us to do our own podcast and have these great discussions and really love doing it, I think, as well.
Absolutely.
But so thank you for having us on yours.
No, pleasure. And here's to hopefully many more years of both our podcasts continuing.
Here we go.
I'm sure.
I was trying to think of a fun catchphrase, like, it's about time, Wholala, or like, Wholala time. Like, I couldn't think of anything. I was trying, but no, I couldn't.
It's about Wholala time.
Yeah.
It's about Wholala.
We'll workshop it.
We'll workshop it.
But yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Without further ado, stay cool, stay safe,
stay fantastic.